All right. Now then, this is a little program, little thing here. This is a kind of a war story, but I'm gonna cover some other stuff and all that. I've already built the PowerPoints for tomorrow and the next day too, so be prepared for those. What we got here, I was backing out of my driveway one Saturday morning. I had a 95 Taurus I was driving at the time that I had bought when it had really low miles on it. It had 180,000 miles and it just, the tensioner just popped. I mean, I made a noise under the hood and I looked and the tensioner just broke in half. And sometimes they do that.
Had a harmonic balancer do that.
Yeah, there's all kinds of them things. But there's a tensioner sitting there all them miles and it's doing that one day. And then my belt was flopping around loose. I lost my power steering, got all the warning lights coming on. So I go around the corner to the local chain parts store and I says, I want to get a Taurus 3-liter, tensioner for, and they says that'll be $80 or $79 in the change. I said, that sounds kind of pricey, but I guess I'll take it. So I took it and put it on my car and sold the car to my son because he wound up needing a vehicle. So I sold it to him and I was driving something else. And about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months later, he was working at that tire store over there and he said, the belt's squeaking on this thing and every time I spray a little silicone on it, the belt just jumps off of it. Well, I looked and that new tensioner I put on there was crooked. And it was ridiculous that I paid $80 for that. So I went to the Ford place and I paid $55 for a new Motorcraft one. And as far as I know, that thing's still on that car, wherever it's at. But anyway, that was $80 for that. You see the belt is out of line there? This is actually, this wasn't that car, but it was another car that we put a tensioner on that was a cheap aftermarket tensioner. Personally, I like Gates best, or the factory, or the OEM, but this particular one was not either one of those. And see how it was getting out of line. What happens, we put the tensioner on there and it comes back about usually less than a year later squealing. And they don't like it. So when you look down through there and you see that tensioner out of line like that, you just may as well go and replace it with a tensioner. And so, but this one here is the one I bought at the Ford place. Excuse me for the covered up words there. Well, maintenance, it goes deeper than oil changes is important, but we put these thermostats on here. Because whenever you get a PO125 or a PO128, what you've got typically is a thermostat issue. Now, I will tell you there is a caveat on that that's probably going to make you find its way into a PowerPoint later on. On my son's Toyota, we discovered long distance that a PO125 on a Toyota doesn't mean thermostat. Not always. It can mean that you've got a dead oxygen sensor. More about that later. Well, a bad thermostat doesn't always look as bad as this. That one was broken. We took it out. It was running way too cold. There was one I had in my hand the other day that we pulled out of something. What did we change the thermostat in? Was it a... Some
90 and Chevrolet.
Yeah, but anyway, you could look through it and see it open. It was just wide open. Sometimes you can't even see it. Well, sometimes I think the spring must get hot and weak or something goes wrong with the wax element and it starts opening too soon or whatever. Well, the PCM will throw the 128 or 125 usually in the middle of that. All right, but if you don't have the thing running warm enough, you wind up with this kind of garbage. What happens is whenever people don't let the engine warm enough, you got your moisture, your water you're making when you burn your gas, and it's going to come through there as blow by, and it's going to get in the crankcase. The PCV system needs to be able to pull that out of there. If it doesn't, like if they take little short drives and everything, it can overwhelm the PCV system and your oil and your water starts to mix. That water that's blowing by that never got a chance to steam out of there with the PCV, and it winds up making a mess like this. Now, if you ever see this, I mean, like at some of your dealerships and stuff, when they have sludged up engines like this, they don't take the engine apart and clean the sludge out of it. They just get rid of the engine and put another one in it. This right here was a Toyota. Now, in about 2000, Toyota had some issues with their PCV system, and that's what this was a picture of. I took that picture at the Toyota dealership over there. But anyway, this friend of mine bought his early 90s Acura Vigor, one-owner car, 130,000, mom and pop, and it was one of them things, it drove so good, and it was so tight and so quiet, and had all this power, and had that straight 5-cylinder engine in it, and it's a linear engine, but it's front wheel drive and it's got a funky transmission like nothing you've ever seen before. The torque converter, the output shaft for the transmission, in spite of the fact that it's mounted front and back, comes out of the front by the torque converter. So you got your torque converter and your output shaft coming out next to the torque converter going into the differential, and the differential goes out to the wheel. You better put some grease on them splines if you have to take one of those apart, they're gonna wipe them splines out and they won't pull. Anyway, a week after he gets it, he takes a 2-hour trip, and he winds up sitting beside the road with a locked up engine in this little car after he had it about a week because the sludge, like I showed you in the previous slide, melted and ran down into the oil pan and it clogged up the oil pump screen and it just starved her for oil. It was like a $1,700 unit pay for an engine for that. All right. So where the first new thermostat doesn't warm things up, I've seen this at the Ford place when I was working over there. They'd give me a thermostat across the counter and I'd put it on and it'd still run too cold. They'd give me another one, give me another one. Finally I wound up getting a good one and all that. Usually about 2 or 3 times you'd have to get a good, not every time, but if you ever run into one like that. Now, one caveat, it was that silly little Ranger we worked on, and the only way we could get that thing to run anywhere near close to operating temperature was to block part of the radiator. he pulled the head off, and we were thinking them gaskets might have eat out their holes or something. We worked on that thing and worked on it, and after that, and I don't know if I told you about this, I did a Google search on that problem, and from about, I'm going to say probably mid-90s, to about 2007, there was a lot of people with those 4-cylinder Rangers that were complaining that they wouldn't make any heat. I mean, the engine just running bone cold, you know what I mean? And it was something that we did all kinds of stuff to try to heat it up, and we had very little success with that. Anyway, the guy wasn't all that concerned about it. He just wanted to know what it was. And we worked on it until we didn't want to spend any more money or time or that kind of stuff. But it wasn't like it was a dangerous thing, but it was running too cold. And the engine, that car, he said everything had 1,000,000 miles on it or something. All right, this 2004 Sebring came to the school bus shop, or school shop, not school bus shop, with a PO 125 code, and we put a thermostat in it corrected. No big deal. The thermostat is not under the upper radiator hose. Now let me ask you this. Why is it good to have the thermostat in the lower radiator hose? What's the benefit of that? You're seeing it more and more, by the way.
You don't have to bleed it.
Yeah, you just pour it in there and it fills up. You still need to make sure it's full. You don't assume anything. You know what I mean? Don't say it'd be a 8. Because what happens is it overheats and you end up in big trouble. But if the thermostat's in the bottom, now the Volkswagen Rabbits I worked on in the early '80s, they had those little slant 4 diesels. They had the thermostat in the bottom. And whenever you could actually take the upper radiator hose and just pour the coolant in it and fill it up. I have taken on some of them the heater hose loose, even if the thermostat's on top. I pull the heater hose up and I use a funnel to fill it up with coolant through the heater hose, and then try to get all the air out of the block that I could. Some of the thermostats have got a little bleed hole on them and a little plate that dances around. You remember I showed you that? If it's got that bleed hole in it and the thermostat is mounted vertically, you need to put that bleed hole on the top. If it's mounted flat, it's got a bleed hole, it don't matter. That bleed hole is to let it push the air out when you're filling it up with coolant. Not that much to it. Well, the bleeders, and something else is strange about this car too, the water pump is driven by the timing chain. And so where do you think the weep hole is for the water pump? Where would you put the weep hole for the water pump? If the weep hole where if it's leaking water, if the seal's bad, it comes out that weep hole. And they don't want it going in the oil. So there's 2 weep holes. There's one that's down there by the thermostat, which is behind the air conditioner compressor on the side of the block. And there's another one. If that one gets stopped up with crud or a dirt dauber builds a nest in it, there's one underneath in the valley, underneath the intake. And the one in the valley underneath the intake, what it will do, if that one down there is stopped up and it starts weeping out that hole, it will run down and drip out all around the back of the engine and make you think you got a bunch of freeze plugs that are bad. Okay? Now then, here's another deal. That little, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in a minute in a picture. That little plastic unit on top that's got the bleeder valve and the coolant sensor in it, they sell them at the parts house for like $50. Comes with a sensor and everything. That thing usually is what the leak is. If you see a bunch of water running out all around the transmission and everything, suspect a leak on that plastic thing first, because it leaks really bad all the time. We changed a bunch of them dang. Anyway, so the code was gone, the engine was warm. What else could we ask for? He came in complaining he didn't have any heat. That's what the deal was, right? So 3,000 miles and a few months later, it's back with a customer reporting cold engine symptoms. I'm still running cold again. Ain't got no cabin heat. So I had one of the guys check it. I didn't follow him up too close. The other temperature needle was running right in the middle. And prior learning pointed to the thermostat again. So, well, maybe we gotta put another thermostat in it. So the boy that was working on it, he was trying to work around the AC compressor without pulling the AC compressor off. That's his problem. If you pull the AC compressor off, it's easy as dirt. But when you're trying to work around it, it's making it harder on itself than it needed to be. And so we tested the thermostat he pulled out of there with a torch and a thermometer and a can of water, and it started to open at about 190 degrees. And that's a little cold, but not really, usually a really good one will be fully open at about 200 degrees. So a little bit cold, but no problem there. We figured that's what it looks like where it's mounted. Right there, see you got these 3 bolts right there. Then you got that little rubber thing right there on it. All right, so he's fingering the bolts into their holes, and he didn't like the way one of them felt. So he decides to chase it with a 6mm thread tap. I touched on this in a previous presentation. Choosing the proper tap, he chases these 6mm threads out. Then he managed to break the tap off in the second hole. Popped it off smooth in there. Now this right here is aluminum. And you got to have all 3 of them bolts in there or that thing is gonna leak. How many of you guys have been tempted when you break a bolt off just to feel like you can leave that one out? You know what I'm saying? Well, we broke this bolt, it'd probably be okay if we just leave it out.
I figured out how to get the taps off, the bolts off in there.
Yeah.
Can't take a punch, bust.
Well, it's this aluminum was really soft. We didn't really want to get too ugly with it, and it's not very thick either. I mean, but some things you just can't do with a hammer. You know what I mean? You got to watch out. So this is what we were looking at. This is what it looked like. It was broke off. There's a tap. It was popped off in the hole. That's what we were seeing. And that's a little bitty hole too. It's a little bitty 6mm hole. So when a mechanic makes a mistake like that, it's the mechanic's responsibility to figure out a solution. Now occasionally if the mechanic doesn't have the experience or the drive to figure it out, the buck is passed up to somebody that can solve the problem because this one had to be fixed. This was a nice enough car to where we didn't want to, tell the guy, well, sorry we screwed your car up, you can't drive it anymore without putting a motor in it, and that's only going to be $4,000 or something like that. All right, so what we did right here on this one, we got a little drill bit and we drilled a hole in 4 different places here. Now I will tell you that the flutes in that tap, I drew this on paint, well the flutes in that tap were closer to the actual diameter of them when they drill bit holes than what I'm showing here. And so what happened was when we drilled it on all 4 corners, we drilled here, 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 and here, then we were able to worry this thing worry these thread cutting parts into those holes and rattle that thing out of there. And that's what we did to solve that problem. And that's what it looked like after we put the helix wall in it. All right, so we installed a replacement thermostat and refilled the cooling system. Should have been the end of the job, but it wasn't. So the ease wireless interface connected to the Chrysler and the engine coolant temperature was running bigger than life on our flat panel like we're about to do out there. We watched the coolant sensor climb into the danger zone, and there was no fan operation whatsoever. The heater wasn't heating because it had pushed some of the coolant out, and it was low on coolant. Well, why hadn't the gauge indicated a hot engine? I don't know. Why would a gauge not indicate a hot engine if you're low on coolant and the engine's hot?
I ain't got enough to read the sensor.
The sensor's then got a bubble around it or something. Or just, if there's not water on the sensor, it may not read hot.
That's how the motor got burned up my Mustang.
Was that good?
My dad they had blow head gas to start out with. I put some of that liquid glass in it and fixed it. Or I guess it blew a little bit back through there or something, opened up a hole, and it swole the top radiator hose up, hit the alternator pulley, busted a hole in it. The gauge, when I pulled it up to work, was still on, because my gauge never even got to halfway, it's staying between halfway and
Yeah.
the cold one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got to work, it was still out right there, and it cut off when I pulled in the driveway.
Yeah. Well, you stuffed another engine in it anyway.
Yeah. That's about to get another one stuck in.
Yeah, here, we're gonna have a lot in that car. Well, here we go. I saw that once though, on a 95 Chrysler New Yorker that this guy had over in the parking lot I was looking at. He just, somebody called me on, Saturday morning and said, hey, car's overheating, can you look at it? And I went over there and It's one of them engines there, you know, I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail here, but this thing was making air and you'd have sworn it had a blown head gasket and all that kind of stuff, so what we did was put a thermostat on it, and that's all it took to fix that one. But why the gauge didn't show the overheat unless there was an air bubble at the center unit, like we were talking about. Now, this is what the water pump looks like on this Sebring. And it's really aggravating to change in the car. You can do it, but it's real hard.
Did Harley do one of that?
Huh?
Harley, Madden?
He didn't do one of those. He did one in a Chrysler Pacifica. That was I think a 3.5 or something like that one, I can't remember. But anyway, he didn't do that one. The one that I'm talking about is so close to the doggone shock tower, you ain't got no hardly no room to work. You gotta, you know, take it loose and jack it up and mess with it and all that kind of stuff. You can do it, but you gotta take the timing chain off and all that. See what I'm saying? And that's what the deal was on that. Well, it had a clean cooling system of less than 70,000 miles on it at the time, so I just threw the idea of a bad water pump out. So anyway, but this is what I wanted to show you. I actually had to doctor this in order to get it to where it was anatomically correct, because the one that's in the book has got the arrows pointing the wrong way and all that kind of stuff. And if the thermostat, the little arch on the thermostat is facing out, you know that the flow is this way, right? Right? Got that? Well, they had those arrows pointing the wrong way. If you look in the Chrysler book right here, when you notice how it flows there, you got your water pump here and your thermostat. So your thermostat basically, you know, when the thermostat opens, before the thermostat opens, you're basically going to have the water going through the heater core and then coming back in here, right? Those arrows might be backwards there right now, too. One way or another, I don't know which way that flows, but whatever happens, it goes through the heater core when the thermostat's closed. When the thermostat opens, it begins to go through the radiator and it goes back into this, that little coolant outlet connector on the top. It's got them little things, the bleeders on top of it. That's what that is. And then your pressure container's hooked in there. That's just giving you an overview of the way that thing's fixed up. All right, so, but I like to engage the AC in a no fan situation to see if the fan comes on. If you turn on the AC and the fan comes on, it at least gives you an idea that it can run the fans. But it wouldn't engage the fan even that way, so we, you know, basically needed to recharge the AC anyway. But one way or another, you couldn't get the fans to run on this one. And they're supposed to come on at 220, fan off at 208, high fan at 230. In other words, if it keeps getting hotter, it'll turn the fan on to the higher, fan off at 221. That's on this particular vehicle. It's a little different for every one of them. And not every shop manual will tell you when they're supposed to come on, which I don't really like that. You just about need to build your own thing right here. So the sensors roll in this whole thing. Instrument cluster uses the same sensor to operate the gauge. The transmission fluid temperature sensor can also affect the operation of it, so on and so forth. But basically, look at this. Engine coolant sensor talks to the PCM. PCM talks on the PCI bus to the body control module. PCI bus talks to the instrument cluster, and the instrument cluster displays the temperature. This is passing through a lot of hands, right? There's middlemen everywhere. So you can see how you might have something being lost between here and in your eyeball. All right. So we found the high and low fan relays, and it only took a minute to determine there was no power available at either relay on these pins right here. None whatsoever. We had a low-speed fan relay and a high-speed fan relay. See, you got two motors here too. All right, so this is what happened right here. That little fuse right there, when we pulled it out, it wasn't blown. It just started building resistance and heat right there, and it melted down. That's the fuse out of that particular car right there. It just ruined it. And so we were wondering if we were going to have it. We scraped that off as good as we could, and we put a new fuse in it, and we got fan operation. All right. The replacement fuse normalized the fans. PCM engaged both the fans at the proper reported temperature. They would never cycle off, and if the fans don't cycle off, you still got a problem. Okay, that's why I said when you're doing this, you need to let the fans cycle on and off. You know, instead of just saying, I want to be through with this thing, you pour some water in and put it outside and let somebody burn the darn thing up. You got to be really proactive in making sure that don't happen. All right, so remember where the thermostat was. The thermostat in the lower hose was reading, the lower hose that was connected to the thermostat was reading 83 degrees Fahrenheit. With this thing running hot. This was reading a lot hotter in the top. This really, actually it got hotter than that, that's the one I captured. But the point is, that when we found out the lower hose was as cold as it was and the engine was trying to run as hot as it was and we knew it was full of coolant, And we had to go back and replace the thermostat in there. I told the parts cameraman to bring me a thermostat that's not made in China. We'll need that. So it looked and felt different. When I was trying to open that Chinese thermostat with my thumbs, I could feel it sticking. I mean, it was just a lousy thermostat. All right, so they cycled on and off normally. I'd never be happy with that temperature gauge. Could you trust it? I don't think so. All right, let me see. Now, this is another story from a guy that I know. And yeah, some of the words are covered up because it's different PowerPoint, you know, that we built it with. This guy said he was working on a 2005 Town and Country with a front suspension noisy suspension on a Town and Country, and he pinpointed the noise to the upper strut mount and decided to replace it. Simple enough. He raised the vehicle up on the hoist, removed the retire, was removing the ABS sensor wire to support the support bracket bolt, you know, that little one. There was a noise, and he was standing back against the bench 2 feet from where he was a second ago. Now, how many of us have gone up under a vehicle and just working on something that was just really routine? He's taking that little 6mm bolt off, and all of a sudden, he gets hit by something that knocks him back 2 feet. Right?
Strut spring.
That's pretty doggone nasty, isn't it? He didn't do anything wrong. Right? All right. So, his left eye was blurry, his chest and left arm hurt, and he had no idea what just happened. So he was trying to bring himself back to present. He shakes his head, tries to clear his left eye, and he noticed his strut was hanging down and the spring was a lot less compressed. He was standing really close to that thing, and he wasn't asleep like Jonathan is either. All right. So a cautious inspection revealed about as close to the strut as you could get. That was a good thing. No time for it to build up momentum before hitting. With his hand reaching around the front of the strut to the inside to remove that 6mm bolt, the strut mount broke. Without warning, boom, knocked him back. That released the spring and strut assembly, which decided it wanted to inhabit the same space where he was standing. He's just right here now. Fortunately, he's wearing safety glasses, which you guys despise, right? All right. Listen to what he says next. I have no idea where that 6mm bolt went. I still haven't found it, but based on the gouge in my left safety glasses lens, I have a good idea why I can't find it. He got hit right here, and basically it shoved him back by safety glasses lens. He was about to lose an eye. You got me?
So the bolt shoved him back 2 feet.
It wasn't the bolt. You weren't listening. You were
I
sleeping.
wasn't asleep.
Yeah. Well, you had your eyes closed. You had your eyes closed, and your head was over there. So
That don't mean I was asleep.
yeah. Well, you weren't listening. The strut mount broke. He had his hand on the bolt when the strut mount broke. He was standing real close to it, and when the strut mount broke, the strut came down and out and hit him in the face and knocked him back 2 feet, and part of it hit him right here.
I've heard stories of that happening.
That's nasty stuff, man, I'm telling you. So he walks away with a sore left arm, sore left ribs and chest, sore nose where the safety glasses sit, and a little cut on the center of his forehead and a destroyed pair of safety glasses. Not bad considering what we got. Now listen to this.
Glass eye.
I was brought up to always wear safety glasses in the shop. I do so at home in my wood shop even when I'm not operating the machine. At work, I have become lax, choosing to wear them only when I think I'm doing something that requires them. Normally, I would not have been wearing them for this job. Fortunately, I was also working on another job that I felt it was necessary to wear them. So he left his other job where he'd been wearing his glasses and went to this one, and that's what saved his eyeball, right? He said, I think I'll be wearing them anytime I'm in the shop once I get this blasted child-proof theft. He couldn't get the bag open, you know? So the simple thing about it was, if you're choosing not to wear them, famous last words, it won't happen to me. You know what I mean? You ever had one of them things, it won't happen to me, and it did happen to you? You ever had that happen? Give me an example. What happened? I ain't talking about necessarily even safety glasses, but you thought something wouldn't happen to you and it did happen to you. What happened?
Oh, I always said I would never wreck a vehicle.
Yeah.
I always told a lie.
Huh?
I said, yeah, I did.
Yeah. It happened, didn't it?
Yeah.
All that. Well,
You got any stories about that, Rick?
huh? Got any what?
Stories about that?
Stories about wrecking a vehicle?
Yeah.
Or about, yeah, a couple. Don't know that. And,
Stories. I had a horse once.
yeah. Did it come in the car with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That wasn't good.
How
was it?
fast was you
About 65.
Yeah, he went under him, didn't he? Well, see, the whole thing about it is if you don't take the precautions that you need to take, you know, and the glasses like he's wearing, they're not gonna get the job done, you know, typically. The polycarbonate lenses are made to stop that impact and all. And that guy at Dothan Hardware over there. And I was talking to Zane the other day, and they said, well, you have to wear glasses anyway. And I said, no, I don't. I can read out there, I can see this close to my face. I don't have to wear glasses to see. But I wear glasses because I like to protect my eyeballs, even at the dealership. When I didn't have prescription safety glasses, I wore safety glasses. And sometimes I'd have stuff spray in my face, it wouldn't get in my eyes because, I don't know at the time I've had stuff hit me in the face, would have gone in my eyes if I hadn't had them safety glasses. And the one time I didn't have safety glasses on, I was taking a battery loose on that Dodge and it blew up, my arm happened to be right here.
Battery blew up.
Yeah, it exploded like a bomb, boom, it felt all that stuff hit
What
my arm.
caused that?
Huh?
What caused the battery to explode?
Stuff going on inside of the battery to do that. All I did was put my wrench on the bolt and turn it, you know, except it was this arm, I think. Anyway, it
I
blew.
always hear of batteries exploding,
Yeah,
I've
thank
never
you.
seen it.
If you ever hear
happen.
one blow up, you'll remember it, because it sounded like a bomb going off.
You think you might accidentally shorted it out?
Tore what out?
Shorted the battery out.
No, when I'm putting a wrench on there and I'm just turning it to the left, and the other post is on the other side, you know.
I know that, but you could have shorted the power to a round.
No, not on that particular one. I analyzed the situation, that wasn't what it was something within the battery itself called blow up. I've actually had them blow up when I was starting the car.
Damn.
Like, when I was over at, me and the boys were at Richmond Hill, and I went to start a car, little
They go
Nissan I was
through the hood?
driving, and when I was starting the car, I sit in the car, we were gonna leave, and when I turned the key, it goes boom! Big noise under the hood, and the battery's junk's everywhere, and the battery's all in pieces and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, the stuff inside the battery can make it do that. But what I'm getting at is, this guy right here, it made a believer out of it. What you don't wanna be, is be made a believer when it's too late. You got me?
In other words, wear your safety glasses this afternoon.
You need to wear safety glasses. I mean, I'm thinking,
Come here,
you got it.